we were able to enlighten people. I used to go around through all the various quarters in the political Ward 7, for example, Constituency 2, because I contested at one time for House of Assembly. And that period, for me, was very exciting because I had the opportunity of going around Constituency 2 in Esan Northeast and talking to people about what their expectations of government should be, having a different voice. Because at one time, I think politicians just took the people for granted. They didn't feel that they had any cause or need to explain to them or distribute this thing we call the dividends of democracy. People weren't feeling the dividends of democracy because our politicians were very arrogant. The Atalefo attitude, even election wasn't really election, it was selection. That's what it was. If you were...
I don't know if it was. I think that is what it is. What it still is.
Yes, well, yes, it still is in a way, yes, and we can discuss that. But at that time, it was so crude. It was so crude that you didn't even have to vote. If you went to the ballot box, you went to go and vote, it really didn't matter. Elections results and people who were going to go were already written months before the election. People who were going to go were already known before the election was even held. It was that crude. There was a time when really, politics in Uromi was that simplified. It was so basic that going for an election was just like a day out. So I think we changed the narrative. Since 1999, nascent democracy, it was important that we also started to feel the democracy in Amedokhian, in Uromi. And I can assure you that the involvement of myself and many other young, youthful, enterprising, bold, I must say very bold, because at that time, to say you were going against the established processes at that time, you really needed to be a bold person. Had to be. And so we took the bull by the horn. We set out on a project of spreading a different language, a different message to people about what their expectations of politics should be, about what politicians were supposed to deliver home for us. And they started to change people's expectations and understanding. And, it is good where you are having change of baton. So today, the PDP wins. Tomorrow, APC wins. It never used to be like that. It was just one party, always. You could go to sleep, the result was going to be. So I say that people like myself, we went to Uromi, to Amedokhian. We took risks. We took the bull by the horns, and we said we were not going to be we would not join the established protocol because we're in a democracy. And these are the serious ingredients of democracy. And again, we have to, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as I keep saying. We must be led by evidence. And
that is very interesting, sir. I think we are going to have to set an episode on that because the Nigerian politics is very interesting to really explore. So you are going to explain to me more in detail of what is happening there, even within the politics of Edo State, within the politics of Uromi, because it's very, very important. Again, Uromi has always been vital in the history of the Nigerian nation. We just have an important role to play in this country. But of course, let's limit it again to where we are just now, which is the youth development, Amedokhian, and Uromi, and Esan as it were. Now, there is something I'll be reflecting upon, which is also part of this exercise or the discussion on Esan, which is the Esan entrepreneurship. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, because now I'm beginning to look at the people who have a semblance of a structure of how to be successful, even in themselves. What I mean is this. At least like I remember now, because I grew up there up to the age of 24 before I left Nigeria. And all these years I've always lived in Uromi. So I remember that in Uromi, if you are growing up as a young person, you are either going to school or you are learning work. So I'm interested in that part of the learning work now. That there was no really in between. That time it was, I'm not saying there was no thieves in Uromi. I'm not saying there were no armed robber, but it was pretty low compared to what we have today. So because we are looking at youth development, the youth that should be able to take care of their need, not necessarily have to go and start waylay some other persons on the road. What do you have to say about Esan entrepreneurship?
Yes. Obulaba, listen, I'm jealous of you in a way. You just said now that you grew up to the age of 24, you were in Uromi before you left. Well, I grew up in Benin, and then I went to school abroad. It wasn't until my 40s that I said to myself, you know what, I come from a place, I must go home. I left Europe, and I came home, and I came to Amedokhian, and I met my people. I made a conscious decision to make sacrifices, to leave my place of comfort. So growing up, even my spoken Esan wasn't, anything to write home about. I had to learn how to speak Isha at an old age. But that is the level of commitment and love and sacrifice I feel that we all need to make. We cannot say we want to make Esan great and we are not prepared to make sacrifices. All the great leaders of the world have had to make sacrifices, some even with their lives. I know the conversation is about Amedokhian. You mentioned the name just now, Inahoro, Chief Anthony Inahoro, who moved the first motion for independence. And there's something that I think I have to use this opportunity to say that has always bothered me. You see, one of the things that I think I'm qualified to make a point on, not having grown up at home, I have a very objective view of Uromi as a whole. I can look at things objectively, holistically, without maybe a prejudice of having grown up and having fixed ideas. Although I wish I had grown up in Uromi, because there's that flavor which I'm enjoying now that I would have liked to enjoy even when I was younger, with having home-based friends. I've made a lot of friends now, but these are people I've made in friends I've made in adulthood. I would have liked to have, childhood friends. I want to say something about the Uromi man generally that I have observed. We don't honor or value our heroes. We easily forget our heroes. A people who do not treasure their history can never go places. We have reputable men and women, late and still living, who have been successful in industry, in business, in politics, in philanthropy, in all walks of life, in Edo State, in Nigeria at large, and all over the world. I have had the privilege in my world travels to meet Esan people who are well established in the various communities where they live, home and abroad. However, I find that the average Uromi man does not want to accommodate his brother and sister who is successful. I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but I always like to speak factually.